Good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on accelerating digitalization in the rail industry presented by Autodesk. My name is Serafina D'Souza and I'm the Assistant Editor of Construction World. Special thanks to our partner Autodesk for supporting us with this webinar. Special thanks to our moderator, to each one of our panelists and our audience for making the time to virtually be with us here today. The rapid growth in infrastructure projects and increasing complexities in construction is synonymous with both disruptive and supportive technologies that automate operations. This webinar by Construction World on accelerating digitalization in the rail industry, presented by Autodesk, aims at articulating the various digital technologies that are accessible across the lifespan. The webinar today will discuss the increasing complexity of rail projects and the role of technology in helping them, collaboration across the ecosystem of contractors and consultants for efficiency, no downtime and minimum rework, automation to drive speed and scale, upskilling teams to digitize entire projects, and digital twins for maintenance and operations. Before we begin with our topic of discussion today, a short PPT on CW and our upcoming events. 25 years in running, Construction World is India's largest circulated construction magazine with distribution across 800 cities in India and overseas. Its readership includes contractors, builders, developers, architects, consultants, infrastructure developers, real estate companies, building material companies, construction equipment, and technology companies. CW prides in delivering the most authentic, trusted, up-to-date, and timely information about the construction business and has been honored with several awards, including the CIDC Vishwakarma Award. Here's a glimpse of a few of our past edition covers. In our March edition, we had path-breaking interviews of Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, and Mr. TV Somanathan. A large part of our focus in the recent past has shifted to the digital world. Delighted to share that our monthly visits have now touched over 250,000. If you haven't already, do subscribe to CWOW, which is Construction World on WhatsApp, to get regular industry updates on the go. CWOW already has about 11,500 subscribers and counting. And all you need to do to avail of this service is give a missed call on the number seen on your screen right now. A part of our exclusive offering is CW Gold, through which you can stay updated on exclusive content related to the construction, infrastructure, real estate, and building material sectors. We're offering a 7-day trial for free now. So if you haven't made the most of this already, do so quickly. ASAP Info Global Group is also offering a special Independence Day offer. You can get discounts up to 35% plus a 1-month free digital subscription. This offer is valid only until Saturday, 31st of July, so hurry. On your screen right now is important contacts and social media handles of Construction World. Do follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Very quickly, a few of our upcoming events. On 30th of July, which is tomorrow, we are organizing the Infra Steel Summit. Topics of discussion will include the key drivers for steel demand in construction and infrastructure, including railways, prefab technology, steel engineering, among others. Do join us for this virtual event tomorrow at 2 p.m. On 20th August, we will be hosting the very popular QAB Awards, the Construction World Architect and Builder Awards. This is our 16th year of awarding India's top architects and builders and noteworthy projects, and the second year that we will be hosting the awards virtually. This year, our theme is React, to respond to the environment with awareness, creativity, and technology. Delighted to share that our guest of honor at QAB this year is Dr. Vibha Dhawan, the Director General of TERI. Also, as a countdown to QAB, we will be organizing a series of webinars. Topics of discussion will include Designing the Future of Architecture, which will be held on 6th August, Women in Architecture and Construction on 13th August, and Design Build Trends on 18th August. Mr. Habib Khan, the President of Council of Architecture, will be our keynote speaker for the session on Designing the Future of Architecture. Architect Abha Lamba will be the keynote speaker for our session on Women in Architecture and Construction. And for the session on Design Build Trends, we have renowned architect Hafiz Contractor as the keynote speaker. Without further ado, we now come to our topic of discussion on accelerating digitalization in the rail industry, presented by Autodesk. Before I hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Nikhil Bagalkotkar, a quick introduction to our panelists. Our moderator, Mr. Nikhil Bagalkotkar, Asia Pacific Technical Head at Autodesk's AEC Business, has over a decade of experience across various facets of technology, sales, and marketing. He has had the opportunity to work with several large enterprise organizations in the Asia Pacific region. He specializes in assisting organizations conceptualize, design, and execute transformational projects backed by technology. And his career in the technology sector has enabled him to architect solutions around information management, workspace reinvention, future of design, and digital transformation. As the head of technical sales focusing on the architecture, engineering, and construction segment, he leads a diverse multicultural team representing the top talent in the AEC industry across India, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Australia, and New Zealand. Thank you, Mr. Bagalkotkar, for joining us. Mr. Vivek Bhushan Sood, Chief General Manager, Projects and Planning at the Indian Railway Stations Development Corporation, has over 25 years of experience in the railway sector. He has extensive experience in track maintenance and bridge maintenance in the railways. He has also played a key role in introducing new technologies like high-strength friction grip bolts and automatic shear studs to bridges on Indian railways. He is the author of 2 books titled Railway Curves and Steel Girder Fabrication for Railways. Since January 2017, he has been working with IRSDC and looks after planning of station redevelopment projects. Thank you, Mr. Sood, for joining us. Mr. Sunil Srivastav, Managing Director, Balaji Railroad Systems, is a graduate in Science and Electrical Engineering from Osmania University with a postgraduate qualification in SME Business Management from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He has over 30 years of professional experience covering marketing, business planning, and project management of rail infrastructure projects in India as well as overseas. His experience in various types of railway projects in India and over 12 countries gave him the idea to set up India's first education and training institution dedicated to rail technology, the Institute of Metro and Rail Technology. Besides, he is a member of the American Railway Engineering Association, the Consulting Engineers Association of India, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and the National Railway Task Force of CII. Thank you, Mr. Srivastav, for joining us.
Thank you, Shatri. Thank you.
Mr. V. Ajit Kumar is the Managing Director of Kerala Rail Development Corporation, a joint venture company of the Government of Kerala and the Ministry of Railways to identify new areas of rail development, initiate and execute new projects, etc. During his 32 years stint at the Indian Railways, he has had the opportunity to work with various railway establishments, including Southern Railway, South Central Railway, RDSO Lucknow, RailTel Corporation of India, and so on. He has been instrumental in various doubling and gauge convergence projects in Southern Railway. Mr. Kumar, thank you for joining us. Mr. Vinod Kumar Agrawal is Director, Systems and Operations at the Maharashtra Metro Rail Corporation. A Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Telecommunication, he has 31 years of experience in project planning, execution, operation, and maintenance in signaling and telecom systems in railways and metro. He is currently looking after project execution for traction, signaling, telecom, lifts, and escalators, AFS, ECS, TVS, including O&M for the project. Prior to this, he has been associated with the Indian Railways for 26 years and has been handling international competitive bidding for World Bank financed projects, train management systems, mobile train radio systems, automatic train control system, estimation, tender specifications, finalization of tenders for signaling, consultancy, etc. Mr. Agrawal will be joining us in the next few minutes. I now hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Nikhil Bagalkotkar, to begin our discussion on accelerating digitalization in the rail industry. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sarfina. Good afternoon to everybody who's attending, and I hope everybody and their loved ones are doing fine in the current crisis. We've got a really power-packed panel for you today, and over the course of the next 45 odd minutes, I'm sure we're going to explore lots of topics that are very close to my heart, which is railways, digitization, and what the future of the Indian infrastructure looks like. So without really talking too much, let me get all the magnificent speakers that we have today to do all the talking. And I'm going to aim my first question towards Mr. Srivastava. Mr. Srivastava, you've got a lot of experience in the consulting domain, and you've helped really materialize some of the greatest projects in the rail sector for us. So when you look at the rail segment and the journey to BIM, it's been quite long, right? It's been from CAD to BIM and to connected BIM. And this journey really requires people, processes, and the technology to change. In your experience, how can organizations in this sector really embrace cloud-based BIM and the changes associated with it?
That's a very powerful question you asked me, Nikhil. And being the opening batsman, I'm expected to actually not just fend your bouncers, but also take full use of the power play lines. So, yes, railway historically and globally has been a fairly slow system to accept changes in technology, and that is one of the reasons why BIM and other technologies have been accepted much faster in other sectors than in the rail one. So since, like I said, historically it's been there. So yes, while the advantages of BIM are very visible, are getting known to people, but then the legacy of the system itself is a challenge for people to implement the whole technology to be implemented as a platform. So it's a challenge for the developers. It's a challenge for the owners. That is the railway companies also, because again, like I said, the record keeping, the whole processes have been more manual oriented, and railways has been very slow in adopting technologies globally, not just in India. And that is the bigger challenge, that convert that data into technology acceptable format is the first challenge, which is every sort of organization has to face. The second challenge is to train people within the organization, to handhold them, to spend time and money on training them to handle this technology. And the third one is like basically a shortage of resources, at least in India, who can take on the lead or also train these people. So it's a combination of this which has made it a little slow for implementation. It's definitely happening a lot more faster now, thanks to companies like Mahametro and even K-Rail going there. It's definitely going to give a bigger boost. The Indian Railway, which is the parent and the much larger organization, definitely will be a slow mover looking at the overall size of the organization and the data and everything. But I'm glad that companies like Mr. Ajit Kumar and all leaders there have taken the first step, and wanting to start off that itself, I think is a very good sign. So going forward, I expect more of his colleagues to actually get into this. So it will not only provide platform for higher technology going forward, but it also gives opportunity and thereby creating better resources for the BIM requirement as such. So that's what is my comment on this, Nikhil. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava. You spoke about getting data in an acceptable format, yes. The pace at which the overall evolution in this space has been, and as you rightly said, we expect that looking forward, we see that the space of adoption of BIM and connected BIM is only going to accelerate, with some of the speakers today on our panel today being the trailblazers in this space. Absolutely. And on the people part, you spoke about training and how training can really help address the people gaps. Since we were talking about K-Rail and some of the work that's happened at K-Rail, I'd like to request Mr. Ajit Kumar to answer the next question. So one thing that stands out with K-Rail is the proposed semi-high-speed train. The interesting facts about this semi-high-speed train, which is being worked on by K-Rail, is that it's expected to run at a cost of 2.75 rupees per kilometer. And this could really revolutionize travel across the state. I would even go far as saying that this is much more efficient as a form of transport than many other mode of transport that currently exists. What's the technology behind the scene, and how are you controlling the costs?
Okay. Usually in India, we have two types of technologies. One is the conventional rail technology, where Indian Railways is adopting it. They are going for either doubling or new lines or third line, fourth line, but they are all planned for the broad gauge with a speed limit of, usually it is planned for around 130 kmph or 140 kmph, and in some specific sections, they go for 160. So that is why the speed limit what Indian Railways have been planning. And so the cost of such a conventional rail is only around 40 crores. That is a double line will cost around 40 to 50 crores per kilometer. Whereas nowadays, India has started going for the high speed, like, Mumbai to Ahmedabad, we are going for a high speed, or you call bullet train, where the speeds are in the range of 300 to 350 kmph. So that is an imported technology. The approximate cost is around 260 crores per kilometer for a high speed network. So naturally, when the cost of the infrastructural investment cost is very high, naturally your ticket fares also has to be very high. So in fact, for Mumbai Ahmedabad, as per their DPR, the cost will be around 5 to 6 rupees per kilometer. Since we have planned, maybe for the first time in the history of Indian Railways, we have planned a conventional railway technology where the speed is a little above 160. That is, we are planning for a 200 kmph, which is a conventional rail. It is nothing like any imported technology from Japan or somewhere else. So we are planning for the conventional rail technology, but with the specification of the standards of EN standards or UIC standards, which are proven technologies available worldwide. So we are adopting the standard gauge with the EN technologies or European technologies. And there are slight improvements over the existing conventional rail system. Like the curves have been straightened, plus signaling systems have been improved. We are going for the better rolling stock, better electrical traction systems. So maybe around 20 to 30 crores increase, the conventional rail systems can work at 200 kmph. So this is what we have adopted. And in our case, the cost is coming to around 120 crores per kilometer. That is very specific to Kerala because our terrain is a little uneven. We have a lot of small hills and valleys. So we have to go for a lot of tunneling. We have to go for a high viaducts. So only because of Kerala, the cost is coming to around 120 crores per kilometer. And if it is done in some other states where plain terrain is available, the cost could have been around 60 to 70 crores. In fact, for Pune to Nasik, semi-high speed is being planned. There the cost is coming to around 70 crores, less than 70 crores per kilometer. So since we are able to control the investment cost, we are able to offer a fare of 2.75 rupees per kilometer. And we found, as per our transport study and the willingness from the people for shifting, we found that many people especially people who are traveling by car, are willing to shift, because if you take your own car and travel, you have to spend around 10 rupees.
Yes.
And we found the traffic study as around 1,80,000 people are traveling per day in the roads of Kerala for a distance of more than 150 kilometers. So if 1.8 lakhs is there, and I am sure if there is a transport infrastructure like this where you will be carried in 2.75 rupees, and that too, the time will be almost 1/3 of the current time. Like Trivandrum to Ernakulam, it takes about 5 to 6 hours now by road. And in this semi-high speed or the silver line, we take them in about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So I am sure that people will shift because of the charges, which is around very comfortable at 2.75 rupees, and the time saving. I think I have answered your question.
Yes, fantastic. What a beautiful articulation of that. The challenges you faced, specifically related to the terrain in Kerala. And you spoke a lot about adopting, not going for a completely new approach, but an incremental approach to bringing in standards, better rolling stock, better signaling systems, and the technology behind it, which is used for designing those tools, right from linear infrastructure to the signaling and the whole. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing that insight with us. In the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my next question to Mr. Sood. And Mr. Sood has done some amazing work with the station redevelopment work. So Mr. Sood, with the UN SDG, which is the Sustainable Development Goals defining energy efficiency, clean energy, clean water, waste management as priorities. Going forward, we all expect that sustainability is going to be a big decision maker when it comes to the design process. I understand that IRSDC has also defined its own green building codes for development of railway land. Can you tell us a little bit more about the role BIM plays in sustainable development?
Sure, Nikhil, thank you very much. See, IRSDC is doing the stationary development, and our approach is a 360-degree approach. So we are not doing just construction of buildings or construction of new facilities. We are actually looking at the behavior of the people. We are looking at giving an integrated facility which people start loving once they start using it. And sustainability, as you said, is a global concern. For us, it is a top priority. Already, the 2 stations that we have completed at Gandhinagar, Habibganj, both are having 5-star GEM rating. So we are already working on that. And BIM is a very important tool when we talk about sustainability, because for us, sustainability is not just in the initial construction. Initially, yes, it has to be a green building. That is one part of it. But since we are having long-term O&M obligations also, whatever stations, let's say Habibganj is there or Gandhinagar, both are there with our concessionaires, with our agencies for 45 years. Now, 45 years is a long period, and in this life cycle, not just the one part that we construct something with sustainable materials, but if we save on energy, if we provide good air changes, good lighting, so the users benefit, and the people who are managing the facility, they also save money. So ultimately, the purpose of all these investment going into the green technologies is when we over the life cycle recover that cost. So that is how we are approaching this, and we are very conscious of that. All these inputs that we are putting in, they pay back pretty quickly, and then they are actually net on the cash basis. They are actually positive. And we've already specified that BIM should be used, and whatever the BIM drawings are there from construction phase, they should go to. In fact, from planning phase, they should go to construction, and from construction, they should go to the facility manager, so that we never lose sight of the whole picture, the big picture, how the whole facility is running. So that's how we are approaching this problem.
Fantastic. Actually, Mr. Sood, now that you've talked about the O&M cost, I was just going through a research paper the other day, and the research paper said that 80% of the cost of any AEC or architecture, engineering, construction asset comes actually from operations and maintenance, something that you also articulated quite well. And you spoke about how you've used BIM to ensure that what's designed is also handed over in a digital format post-construction to the people who are going to operate and maintain the facility, helping you reduce cost, maintain costs, and also bring in a lot more structure to in which the station which is being developed is being managed. Thank you so much, sir, for that for that viewpoint. The next question I'm going to ask Mr. Vinod Kumar, and this one's related to Maharail. So Mahametro has been the first metro project in the country that brought in cost and time elements to the design process, taking the traditional 3D or BIM-based design model to 5D, with the 4th and the 5th element being time and cost appropriately. Can you share an insight on how you've been able to deliver a 5D project, and what are some of the learnings from the project that you've had?
Very interesting scenario. Actually, in Mahametro, when we started thinking about the implementation of the project in a timely and cost-effective manner, we researched a lot, and our top management was convinced that if we want to deliver the project on time while keeping the quality and other thing in place, this is the answer. So first thing what I have noticed, that top-down approach, top management was convinced that we should implement this technology, and that is one of the most important reason that we could implement it. I am from railway background, and what I have seen in the last 30 years in railways, like Mr. Sunil was also bringing out, like AutoCAD. We started with AutoCAD, but it was not a top-down approach. We used to prepare drawing in AutoCAD, then take out the print, and later on most of the modifications were being done manually. So there was no correlation between the final drawing and initial drawing. So this was the conviction of our top management, or one of the reasons. Of course, there were many challenges because no one was ready for this environment. Lot of training and lot of convention hand-holding was required to be done. The company who was implementing the technology, they were not having metro domain. and we were not very technology savvy, I must say. So initial, almost it took 1 year to be on the same page. Both of our implementer and we both learned, and the result you can see. Like in Nagpur, we could say save substantial cost in project implementation, customer satisfaction, the for contractor, most important thing is a timely decision on drawings. And second most important aspect is timely payment, because their cash flow is very important for them to function. Both of these things we could achieve through 5D BIM. Like contractors were presenting their bill on real-time basis, and it is being monitored by top management for any delay by any stakeholder. Even delay in submission of the bill was also being monitored. So this all helped. And during implementation, project implementation, we thought of why not extend this to operation and maintenance. As all are knowing that O&M for metro is very cost intensive, and our major cost goes into energy, staff, and AMC. So for energy, we have most of the metro are using energy efficient device, regenerative braking, and other solar power, which we have also adopted. Nothing great about that. But staff and material cost, that was very important. So what we did, digital handover of the project. This we could thought of during implementation of the project itself. Like O&M was involved in the project since beginning, and they started handing over, auditing the drawings, handing over the drawings from the beginning. Now, what module we have? All the construction drawings are handed over to O&M. We devise the maintenance schedule, maintenance process, asset attributes, asset code, everything. Everything is mapped in the system. Even all the land record, whatever we have taken on lease from the government or we bought from the private party, everything is mapped in the system, and anyone can access anytime all the records. So operation is not like a black box that there is no fight between construction and operation. Oh, this record is not available. Everything is available. So we are reaping the benefit. When we started with the Pune Metro, most of the infrastructure, convention, everything was ready. So implementation of this 5D BIM was very easy in Pune. We didn't face much of a problem. And we created a war room to monitor the project. Generally, projects are being monitored in very discrete fashion. Someone is monitoring planning, someone is construction, someone is cash flow. So there is not a single agency who can foresee everything, because everything has an aspect like time. We generally talk about time overrun, but there are reasons behind that. One thing is availability of time, availability of cash flow with the contractor. So all these three things we could monitor on the single platform. That was the benefit we derived in the Nagpur. And with the infrastructure what we created in the Nagpur, we are reaping the benefit in Pune. Now I must tell you, like COVID, most of the organization stopped functioning during first 2 or 3 month lockdown of the COVID. But in Maha Metro, we worked more. Like most of our design, our contractor, our people were in the field. Offices were closed. Everyone was working from the home. So drawings were being submitted digitally, being reviewed digitally and approved digitally. Even contractors were raising their bills digitally from their home. Like workers were working at site, but offices were closed. So we could pay to the contractor also during this lockdown. And our productivity was more as compared to when we were working normally, except the site work. Of course, site work affected because of labor problem. But rest of the things we managed beautifully, I must say, and we worked more.
Interesting. Fantastic. That's a very interesting insight you shared, Mr. Vinod Kumar. You talk not just about saving costs and optimizing the cost spends, but what you really articulated really well is that with every project, there's hundreds of contractors that are associated. And for them, what's more important than anything else is their cash flow management and how you've been able to use the technology to ensure that there have been timely payouts, and also not just payouts, but also timely review of the progress that's happening around the project. You also spoke at length about how you've been able to use BIM and 5D to take what was designed to construction, and now you're using it even in the maintenance and operations. And more importantly, it was an amazing story that you shared around how business continued even when COVID hit hard. And while all other organizations, including many of the large names in the private sector, were struggling, Maha Metro continued to power through, and you've been able to really achieve some amazing things there. One thing that stood out, Mr. Agarwal, from your conversation was the use of this concept of war rooms. And if I may ask a follow-up question to you, Maha Metro introduced war rooms as a concept to really help in project management, issue resolution. And even today, I understand it's being used actively for operations and maintenance. Can you share your insight and the principles behind the war room and how it's helped you?
Yes, like every project is like a war to us. Everything is emergency. War, what is war? If we lose on a smallest aspect, we lose the war. So each and every aspect, like some drawings approvals are pending. Now I should not wait for someone to tell me that because of these drawings my project is getting delayed. So we have created various dashboards, role-based dashboard for top management, for middle management, for even worker. And in war room was equipped with the people who were monitoring all the activities, dashboards, what are the lacking, like if some of the design are pending, who it is pending with whom, what is the reason, they used to find out, they used to collect with those people. If some drawings are not available inside, like what we adopted a QR-based verification for the drawing available at site. Number of times we upgrade the drawing, but that printout is not available at site. Now site people are saying after scanning, oh, I don't have the printout. What to do? So we use war room for all such type of things. Even contractor, I am not able to upload my bill. Like technology is also problem. Technology helps as well as it creates problem. So we, through war room, we used to provide training. You take such and such steps. Even through remote desktop, we used to solve their problem also. Like COVID period, war room helped us a lot. War room was also running from home. Like lot of new ID has to be created, software problem has to be solved. So we use the concept of war room even from the home. War room is nothing but monitoring each and every aspect of the project.
You spoke about how war room has really helped you in reducing. I think one of the biggest takeaways has been how war rooms have been able to reduce the amount of wait times, either waiting for an issue to be resolved, or if there's an open pending query, how do you get it resolved and how do you get it the right set of attention? And also, I understand with the dashboards that you've created, you've been able to give a one-stop at any point in time view of where the project is progressing, what are the open pending items, and also what the next steps are, which is really, really fantastic. Lots of use of technology there, the use of QR codes for verification, and even a thought that would have otherwise never ever come to us, using war rooms as a mechanism to troubleshoot and solve technology problems. Because we all know, right, technology is easier said than done. For those who've experienced it and know how to use it, it's quite easy. But for those who haven't, there can be their own set of challenges, and providing the right set of inputs at the right time can make the difference between a successful rollout and a not so successful rollout. So thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for really sharing.
Actually, one more thing I would like to add, like you might have seen in the malls and other shops, you are under CCTV surveillance. So war room creates an impression you are being watched 24/7. So you cannot delay anything. If you delay the drawing for a day, you are going to be asked, even by top management. So that was also one of the things, that you are being watched. That also helped a lot.
Fantastic. Amazing insight, sir. Mr. Sood, if I may ask the next question to you, moving from the metros to some of the great work that IRSTC has done. And first of all, congratulations on the recent opening of the Gandhinagar and the Habibganj stations. When we all talk about the Indian railways and the progress that we've made in the past many years, it's always interesting to understand or think about what the future of the Indian railways and the Indian stations would look like. So, sir, if I may ask you to take a few minutes and paint a picture for us on what the stations of the future would look like. What role would automation, analysis, simulation play in the very design process of the stations? We'll all really love to hear from you.
So first of all, a slight correction. So Gandhinagar has been inaugurated, dedicated to the nation. Habibganj is ready, not yet inaugurated. And the second part is, as I said earlier also, so the station, this company, the railway companies have many jobs to do. And running the trains is the top priority. So for Indian Railways also, running the train, managing the rolling stock, getting just in time everything. So that is very important. But we as a company are looking at only one small aspect, which is the stations. And the focus is always to have that, again, we should put it as a business process re-engineering kind of a thing. So we're just thinking on the kind of stations we have, the kind of people who come to Indian Railways, and the kind of challenges we have, whether it is a crowd, whether it is the ambience which the people deserve, and then what is the affordability of that. So whether the whole thing should make a business sense, so that it is not just create an infrastructure, let it go down and then put more inputs. Let it be a self-sustainable infrastructure. So our focus is on upgrading the experience, getting more and more people to the railway stations and to travel by trains. So that is the vision, if we put it that way. And the role of technology, role of simulation is huge. Because what we want are smart stations. We want the whole building, the whole premises. They should be again under the control. So war room or control room. So that should be there in each station. And eventually we should have an all India kind of a monitoring station where we can actually see what is happening, what are the improvements. In fact, which we can actually benchmark the stations across the different all over India. Why one particular station, one particular management is able to give better service, the other is not able to, or maybe where there is a thing to learn, or what approach works better. So there are so many things. So the data is of course the key to it. So that is of course in future when we have large number of stations, then all these things will kick in. Currently what we are doing is the crowd flow. That is the first thing, because that is the first thing we have to understand. How the crowd behaves, the kind of the kind of luggage that they bring, the kind of habits they have, how much time they spend at the station. Now these are the first things. First, we have to give those spaces so that people coming to a station, a redeveloped station, should not feel that it is a claustrophobic location. It is somewhere where there are bottlenecks. You have to wait unnecessarily. So there should be a reasonable amount of comfort that you are able to, if you come to the station very comfortably, you are able to reach your train, or from the train outside the station. Now the next is that it has to be logical. So then we need all these logical flows. In fact, we are aiming for unidirectional flows. So let the entry path be different from the exit path. So if once that paths are different, already we have done a lot of improvement to the experience of the people. These people bumping into each other, not a good idea for a public transport. So that is one important aspect. The other is waiting areas. We are actually changing that concept that the platform should also be a waiting area. Platform is already required for a variety of uses. It is required for people to board, deboard. It is also required by railways for their operations, for the parcels, for the maybe the catering. Now the people also are waiting there. So now all of that creates that crowded, first is ambience, and the other is that it's an open area. So there is a limited amount of control you have on an open area. So instead of that, we are coming up, as you can see in the image behind me. So you can see this image of all of these stations are having some sort of a concourse, some sort of an area where you are near the tracks, but not on the tracks. So normally we are having these concourses above the railway tracks at plus 9 meters, so that you are next to your tracks, next to the trains, but not really on the platforms. So and whenever the train is announced, you can go to the platforms. Now, these kind of things, these places, we need them to be far, far superior to whatever we have the experience on the platform, so that the people themselves, they don't want to go on the platform. They want to wait in that comfortable place, which is the concourse, and go to the platforms only when it is really required. Now we need this thermal comfort, we need this oral comfort, we need this announcements to be audible. So now all of this requires simulation, all of this requires the study of the flow of air, the flow of sound. So how this is happening, insulation, where we need insulation, vibration studies we need, because the trains may be passing at full speed underneath, goods trains are there. Now what are the kind of vibrations they are inducing into the structure? So all of these studies are required, and simulation is very, very important part of whatever we are doing. It has to be validated through simulation and then in actual, and then maybe that cycle. So then you start simulation also gets improved once we get the real data from the actual station. So that the cycle, so that the future station should be not just building. It's not just building. It is lot more than just a building.
Oh, that's such a nice articulation of how technology can really help make life a lot better for not just the railways, but also the passengers who are using the services provided by the Indian Railways. You spoke at length about how digital twins, smart stations can really be helped to provide a singular view of what's happening on a particular station, learning from the best and improving the quality of experience that everybody has when they visit a station across the board. You spoke about using tools like CFD for airflow analysis. You spoke about vibration studies, something that wouldn't have come to my mind. And now that I think of it, that when I'm at a station, the most important thing for me to do is listen out for announcements on when my train is arriving and on what platform, and simulation studies around that as well. So interesting how technology and how computers can help reduce the guesswork behind a lot of the design decisions that you've made, and you've articulated so very well. So thank you so much, Mr. Sood. The next question I would like to ask is to Mr. Ajit Kumar, and this one's just talking about the sheer scale of projects that you handle on a day-to-day basis. I really admire the way in which KRail has been developing, with more than 30 projects underway, 75,000 crores earmarked for investment. I'm sure there's terabytes of information, thousands of drawings being produced, and even more number of stakeholders everywhere. So the question I had for you is, how do you manage the coordination between the stakeholders, and what role does BIM or connected BIM play in this coordination exercise between various stakeholders?
Yeah, you have been talking about a big numbers. In fact, we have a lot of projects which are all railway projects, like road over bridges, which are in good numbers, around 27 numbers. I take that apart because that is a normal work. So what I want to highlight is that we are doing that semi-high speed project, which we called a Silver Line project. And that is a 530 kilometer double line connecting north of Kerala with the south of Kerala. It traverses through 11 districts out of the 14 districts of Kerala. And that is costing us around 63,941 crores. So that is a huge project. And to execute a project of that nature, yes, I feel it is humanly impossible to coordinate all the activities, and because we have multiple agencies. What Mr. Sood was talking about was what Mr. Vinod Agarwal was talking about. There are multiple agencies. We will have the EPC contractors spread over various reaches. We have so many suppliers. We have the project management consultant, who will have around 500 to 600 experts. Then the client is there, and each EPC contractor will have their own the detailed design contractors who prepare the designs, and they submit it to the client or to the project management consultant experts. So all these activities cannot be coordinated unless you have a digital platform. That is why we are planning for a comprehensive project management information system. In fact, I should thank Mr. Agarwal, because we have copied, or we have taken a lot of inputs from the tender document, whatever Maharail had, not Maharail, Maha Metro had done it, and they were the pioneers. Yes, They have already started, I think around 4 years or 5 years back, they have already done. And I was told in Pune, they are doing a wonderful job. Fully synchronized between the contractors, their DDC, their PMC. And that is the model which we are also looking for such a project. And I wanted to supplement him on his war room, project war room. Yes, in railways, we have a control office which will be working round the clock, monitoring the movements of all the trains within that divisional area, maybe around 1,000 kilometers, and which will have various verticals, like each department, operating department, commercial department, then the civil engineers, the electrical engineers, the signal engineers, the RPF. So every vertical is sitting there and monitoring round the clock. And then next day morning, the senior officers will come to the control office. They review what happened in the last 24 hours. So this is a continuous process. This is a replica, exactly the replica of the control office where the train services are dealt by Indian Railways. This project war room is where a similar arrangement, people will be monitoring round the clock, and then we will have verticals from the each stream. We will have around 10 types of experts. Streams will be available in a project. And next day morning, yes, the senior officers can come and review. And at the same time, they can access the data from anywhere in the world. So this is what I want to talk about the project work room. And then comprehensive project management information system. We are going for an ERP. We are going for a BIM. We are going for a CD. We are going for honor support organization. Plus, we are also planning to go for 7D. That means the facility management. Whatever infrastructure we are creating, we wanted it to be monitored for the entire life cycle. So this is a gist about the BIM and associated things with our project. Thank you.
Fantastic. So you spoke about the hundreds and even more number of contractors involved and how you're using BIM, ERP, common data environment, which is the connected BIM parlance of BIM, where you have models in the cloud to really ensure that you have seamless connectivity and information flow between various stakeholders. You also talked a lot about control rooms, and it seems like the work that done by Mr. Agarwal is finding a lot of takers, and we're looking to replicate from what the path that's laid down by him. So great to hear that. And also you spoke about moving to 7D BIM, which is essentially not just the cost and time, but also the operations and maintenance, which will come in at a later stage in the project involved. So thank you so much, sir. Very, very, very valuable insights. And moving back from projects to more of what trends the overall industry is experiencing and what we look forward, I'll ask the next question to Mr. Srivastava. And Mr. Srivastava, in the last 30 years, you've seen digitization play a role in the rail segment as a whole. What are the top 2 to 3 areas where digitization has helped make a difference? And what are the 1 to 2 areas looking forward where you expect BIM and the aligned technologies to BIM to be a major enabler looking forward?
Okay, like my fellow panelists will agree that yes, historically we started with the drawing board and the T-squares where all the drawings were made and corrections done. From there, we moved fairly far ahead now. Technology definitely is a great enabler in planning because it gives you, at the shortest possible time, it gives you a lot of options, which otherwise would have taken, in the physical form, would take a lot of, a lot more effort and a lot more planning, a lot more time to actually come to a decision. So as a decision making at the planning stage itself, I would say the kind of tools available today, including your Civility and the BIM platforms available today are very, very great, I would say, productivity enhancers. So that reduces the planning time, which otherwise, say, would have been a couple of months, can actually be reduced to a couple of weeks now, thanks to these kind of tools, because you're able to see in real time the various implications, be it operations planning, be it planning for a station, or be it planning and alignment itself. You're able to see all the options. So that to me is one of the major, I would say, contributions from technology, the planning itself. The second I feel is not so much the design or the drawing. The second, which is coming up now and which will be a major, again, productivity booster, would be on O&M services. the seventh BIM, which you call. Because again, O&M today has been more by checklists and more by time-based kind of O&M. So that not only loses a lot of time, but also adds to cost. Whereas if you are actually able to use technology where the component itself is reading its own health and transmitting on a real-time basis to the workshops. So the workshop is ready to receive the component whenever they want to, whenever it gets worn out, rather than waiting for it and then checking up the whole system, which is the conventional practice today. So to me, the second major thrust would come in on the O&M side. And with more and more O&M getting privatized, especially in India, this would be a major aspect which will not only bring in cost optimization. I would not use the word cost saving, but definitely cost optimization, bring in better O&M practices, and also increase the operating cycle and the productivity of everybody concerned to a very, very large extent. So these are the two areas going forward where I personally feel technology is to take over from Mr. Sood's area. As a passenger, I would love to see a future railway station where when I get out of my car, because normally the parking vehicle would be a part of the station premises. So when I get out, I actually get to know through wayfinding on my handheld device, could be a phone or whatever, as to which platform my train is going to come and which is the gate I should get into, and everything from there, or where I need to get a porter, and everything on my handheld device. And I just walk in, because today tickets are anyway available on the handheld device. So I don't even need to physically show a ticket. It reads on its own. It has access gates where it's able to read and allows me access to my concourse without ever having to interact with a human being, kind of thing. So that is one aspect of technology I would love to see in the future railway stations, where it becomes seamless journey. Because today the stations have been designed more from the operations point of view and not from the customer's point of view. So the future, now that we are making a beginning, it should be more to have a seamless travel for a passenger. Boarding, deboarding, everything should be absolutely seamless. And I would love to see that. And I'm sure organizations like IRSDC would actually make it happen shortly. I'm expecting that, Mr. Sood, from you. Hopefully, yes. Maybe a next station we will be able to walk through like that. That's another. Yeah, that's the other technology.
Yeah. So we're already working on 100% access control. And true. even coming out, you have to still, just like metros or other places. Yes. You cannot just be these are not places where you can just go just like that and crowd the place.
True.
And then once we have this control over entry and exits, then all of these facilities can be provided.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yes, very right, sir. So, and that is this guidance, of course, the kind of wish list. So we will note this down, that ultimately we have to have all of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sood. Thank you very much. Yeah. So sorry to digress, Nikhil, but then yes, that was something which I couldn't kind of resist when adding from technology perspective.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srivastava. Interestingly, you spoke about something called as optioneering and helping designs in the decision-making process. And what comes to my mind is one of the areas where a lot of research is happening in countries like the United States, and primarily in the research labs, is how we can use artificial intelligence to come out with design drawings to choose from. And it's great that you pointed it out, because that's an area where most organizations who are on the cutting edge of technology are really investing as well. So think of it this way. I would define what are the criteria based on which I want to design a particular element. So let's say I'm designing an office. I would want to design airflow, thermal comfort, the amount of electricity I use during the daytime so that daylight is used, or things like solar gain in case I'm planning to use solar panels. And based on that, based on the elements that I'm going to measure the effectiveness of a particular design on, the computer AI algorithm is churning out hundreds of designs. Otherwise, we as humans would come up with design 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then organizations would make a choice among these 5. So going forward, optioneering, the way it's looking ahead, is it's not just looking at the elements of the design where you can have thousands of options for design, but you can also look at bringing in elements like circular manufacturing, design for manufacturing and assembly, so that you can think of it like building a station in a manner, or building the entire railway corridor in a manner which is very similar to a Lego set. And great that you pointed that out, because that's very in line with what a lot of the work in this domain is happening. You also spoke at length about O&M, and Mr. Sood spoke about it, Mr. Agarwal spoke about it, and Mr. Kumar also spoke about operations and maintenance. And that's where essentially we're seeing a lot of work happening around digital twin and sensor fusion. So what's happening is we're seeing technology providers coming in, and if you look everywhere around you, Alexa, Siri, and Google, OK Google, and everything is becoming smart, right? From light bulbs to your curtains to even your cars. So I guess one of the next frontiers would be that how do we take in these commercial grade smart devices? Earlier, think of a voice assistant and it would cost you lakhs of rupees. And now for a few thousand rupees, you can get a voice assistant that can pretty much do everything that you can think of. And the idea going forward would be, how do we bring in the smarts from these commercial grade devices and integrate it into the design model, really arriving at a digital twin. So let's say if a PA system speaker on a particular platform is not working, instead of us finding out through complaints, you could essentially, the system will give you inputs through the IoT sensors that the circuit for this particular PA speaker is not complete, which means that probably it's not sending the right kind of output out. So great conversations, really. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity of speaking to stalwarts like you from the industry and really exploring the thoughts of what the future of rail would hold and would look like. So with that, I wanted to really summarize on a couple of thoughts. One is BIM is no longer an emerging trend. It is kind of the de facto standard. Stalwarts like Mr. Vinod Kumar and Mr. Ajit Kumar have really done a lot to move beyond BIM, and we're now talking about 5D BIM and even 7D BIM. Mr. Sood spoke about how algorithms, CFD, can really help you design stations a lot better, which are built for with the passenger first in mind, their comfort, their mobility, ease of access, all of those things. And thank you so much, really, for taking the time and sharing your wonderful insights. With that, I'm going to hand it over back to Sharlina and ask her to share her last words.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you panelists. Mr. Bagalkotkar, thank you. What an insightful discussion. So many points to note, and wonderful to have all of you here on this panel. Great words, great insights. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us, and have a good evening. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you to our sponsor, our partner Autodesk, our audience. Thank you, every one of you.